Hey everyone, this is Donna Savage with Talk with Savage Desires, and I have beautiful Carrie Gorin Sutra with me today. Carrie, what's going on, beloved?
Just excitement that I get to be in this space and time with you right now.
Listen,
How
you
better, amazing, what better time could we have than to be together?
right?
So
You know what, Carrie, you're like one of my favorite person when it comes to the sexual health
mm,
area. I when I decided to start the podcast again, I said I need Carrie to be one of my
oh,
first guests. So thank you for always working with me. I have to, give you a shout out for that. All right.
always a pleasure.
Oh my
Always a
God.
pleasure. I was so excited to hear that you're back lending your voice in this way. So how could I
Thank
not
you.
come
How
back
can
again?
how can you not? I like that. So, let's get into it. Carrie, one of the things, first of all, before we go on to this, Carrie Sutra. Who is Carrie Sutra?
Peri Sutra is actually a woman who really believes in the power of us as women of color in particular, our melanated, chocolate, caramel, all the different layers of the essence of who we are to be able to shine in these spaces. Because for us, a lot of what has been a challenge is that the colonial and societal and cultural narratives really affect the essence of our Blackness,
Oh
really
my
affect on
God.
our sexuality in particular with that Blackness.
You
And
know
what
what?
I'm about is liberating that, letting us come back into our bodies as women of color and letting us understand how we are just as worthy of being sexy and divine and feminine, or just whether you're non-binary, whatever it is in the ways that you identify, that you deserve sexual pleasure. I call myself the pleasure activist, actually.
Excuse me. And it's so
In
funny
that
that you said that because your slogan, I just so love your slogan because pleasure is your birthright. What
yes.
does pleasure looks like for those who don't understand when we're talking about this with pleasure? What does pleasure looks like?
Oh, pleasure truly is what you design it to be. Pleasure is release. Pleasure
Hmm.
truly is a meeting of releasing into and acceptance of your body, your desire, and creating a safe place for you to be able to be in that exchange. And what I mean by that is whether it is an intimate exchange, whether it is an exchange with just how you want to be in the world.
Or
Like
you're showing up.
pleasure can be defined in so many different ways. But if we
Hmm.
are talking in that intimate sense, pleasure really comes from complete and utter release into. And to release into, you need to have safety for that.
Hmm. You know what? I'm glad that I decided to start this approach first because based on what you're saying, and when you talk about the reason why you decided to choose this space, because you want us as melanated women to embrace what sexuality is and in the space of owning what it is. Because as you know, there's only probably 20% of women who understand what pleasure is. So that 80%, what do you think why these 80% is not understanding pleasure or know how to welcome or receive pleasure?
Well, I think as a fundamental core basis, we have to look at how societally we have created the space to which women exist in our sexuality. For women, we live on this really weird spectrum. You
Mm-hmm.
know, either you are considered a slut and a whore, like you're hypersexual, and that's not, that's allowed for maybe a couple of years of your life, if at all. And
Mm-hmm.
then you have this other side of things where we are, considered wifely, or you have to come into this pure understanding or a matronly understanding of what womanhood is.
Mm-hmm.
Women are also taught that we are always in service and in particular to the men folk of our lives. And so
Mm-hmm.
what that means is when you're in that kind of an environment where it's all about, you know, how do we offer pleasure to others, you don't
Mm-hmm.
really think about your pleasure as something that should be front and center.
Mm-hmm.
And so I find what happens for most women is we are socialized to believe that our pleasure doesn't matter,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the bedroom. We're
Mm-hmm.
there to service our men. We're there
Mm-hmm.
to make them feel good. And we don't
Mm-hmm.
often question or step forward in understanding that it takes two to tango. And if it takes two to tango, then our pleasure should be front and center. And that to me is where we need to like step up our game a little bit. We need to be able to claim our desires and our needs. And that starts from understanding that God gave women. I always say this one. We as women, they just did a recent study that was released now. I think it was in May, where they found that the female clitoris has over 11,000 nerve endings. Originally, it was
It's
said to have
eight.
about 8,000.
8,000.
Now we're at 11,000 nerve endings, and men tap out at about 6,000, this new study was saying. And so if that's the case, women are designed through the clitoris, through all of the ways that we can receive pleasure,
Mm-hmm.
to have this incredible experience of sex and intimacy and just orgasm, all of those things. And yet so few women actually know how to access that.
You know what? In that space of time, like you have given me so much things that I want to talk about. There's a barrage, so I won't jump into everything. The sexualized part of it, I want to bring up, because as melanated women, we have been sexualized for years, over 300 years. Because when men look at women, melanated women, we come with, the broad hip, the big breast, the big ass. So people are just so sexualizing us. And then we were programmed now, as you said, to be pleasers. And
Mm-hmm.
we're constantly giving, giving, giving. So this has been coming from time. This is coming from generations. So it's
Mm-hmm.
instilled in us. At what point do you think the changes should begin? Like in you know what? I was going to say in early years, but the persons who are raising us now, they don't even understand that. So when should we start bringing this up? Because we want this chain of event of not women embracing their sexuality, understanding what pleasure is, and stop feeding into being sexualized by men. So
Ah,
at what point do this need to stop so we can have that pivot, a brain, a mindset to start changing things? I know I said a mouthful.
you said a mouthful, but let me tell you, I'm eating all of it up because you are so, like, it's a powerful discussion. And so
Mm-hmm.
I would love for it to back up a little bit,
Yeah.
give some context to what you're saying, because I think it's so important that we kind of set the scene, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I can
Please.
even answer that question in a way that I feel it will resonate. I think we have to, again, for me, it's knowledge is the power. And I think as we are evolving, women are starting to truly claim their spaces as we are moving forward. We have to understand the history. We really do. I'm going to take these off. They're driving me a little
It's
crazy.
okay. Take them off. You're still beautiful with it and without.
We have to take, we have to understand our history.
Mm-hmm.
What the history is that we have to recognize that we have come from spaces where the Black body was a commodified identity.
Mm-hmm.
I would argue that Black women are still fighting even to be identified as women that deserve protection,
Mm-hmm.
as women that deserve to be a free body. Of Black women's bodies have never been their own. We were owned, we were violated, whether it be from even our partners or even from, the slave owners and the masters. And whether you
Mm-hmm.
come from West Indian descent, or if you come from a North American, any woman who has been put into the diaspora from
Mm-hmm.
our African origins must understand that there's this this underlying viewpoint that women, that Black women in particular, are not even considered human to some degree. We're still you know, in a space where we can be worked harder. We can be, we're not considered soft. And
Yeah.
so because of that, there's this disassociation of our bodies, disassociation of who we are. So nobody really considers us worthy of that kind of attention unless it's to be used or objectified. And what I think is happening is, because that has been ingrained, there's a level of us saying, yes, we're stepping forward with it, but there's a level of that is deeply sunk into the psyche of our folk. And so lately there's been studies being done on epigenetics, which is an understanding that there's a collective memory of pain that can be passed on through our DNA. And I think that a way that we can challenge this narrative and really switch things up is to start talking about that, is to start talking about the experiences of our mothers, of our aunties, taking a look at our own experiences and recognizing how that socialization is impacting the way that you sit in your sexuality now. We all know that we've all been raised in the church. You
Listen, like, I feel like this is church right here on its own, but on a different level, because you're talking about epigenetics. And I'm telling you, in my whole coaching program, I do talk about that because we're souls. We're energy. And through that umbilical cord, remember, it's traveling from generation to generations. And I totally believe that it's what's coming from the slavery. So it's still ingrained in us. And that's why I talked about, when does it stop? Because it's not going to stop until that chain is broken. And this is what we're talking about. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
You're hitting it. The chain stops with you.
Exactly.
I truly believe we are the first generation that we're an incredible generation. And what I'm talking about is us Generation Xers.
Yes,
We're
we
the ones
are.
that have really watched that evolution of technology and information that is hit in the present time. And what I've noticed, and I think it's such a powerful thing, is I too, as a coach and as an activist, and all the travels that I take, I'm recognizing how women are very much choosing differently. We are acknowledging what that past history is and deciding that that's not the way we want to live now. And we're really setting up what I believe are boundaries, saying this is what we will accept, this is what we won't accept anymore. As well as we are also saying that we won't allow that for our daughters either. Our daughters have learned that, you know, they don't have to be subjugated in the same way. If you notice, women are starting to choose to have babies later on. They're really choosing dominion over their bodies and recognizing the power that an education or knowledge brings into the reality of your world. I recently did a YouTube video for my channel, where this is one of the things that I was doing some research in. The power that women hold when we are allowed and understand we're given opportunity and we have some education behind it, and we have the autonomy to make our own money and our own sense, immediately you will see that birth rates go down. Immediately you will see that women will have less children. And that speaks to something.
It does. It does. It
and I'm
really
celebrating
does. We have to, because it's a win. A win is a win. And you are absolutely right.
And I would go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, sweetie. Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
And soon, even with that, even further than just our own autonomy, my research into that field, into that story, brought me to understand how the power of the womb actually affects this capitalist system. I would offer that our wombs are the very thing that will absolutely revolutionize and totally collapse this capital and unfair system if we understand the power of our wombs.
Listen, I want to listen, Harry. I want to say some things, but this is not the platform yet. We talk about the wombs. You know, I'm gonna stick a pin in that, but because honestly, we would never come over here, girl. But honestly, you have been dropping some amazing gems, and I totally love it because I'm aligned with you in what you're speaking about so far, because as coaches, and especially when we're talking about sexual health and vibrating high and understanding why certain things are feeling stuck or not enjoying certain things, and people pleasers and givers, and I could go on forever. And where it's coming from, the long line of where it's coming from, and subliminally these things are still being fed into us, and we're soaking it up because it's so familiar.
Yes.
It feels so familiar that, you know what? Oh, maybe, you know, it's okay. Because if we're comfortable in feeling uncomfortable.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You talked about earlier, in your research that you found out that there's 11,000 cells now that you're reading, and that's in the clip. I want to address that as well. Because before it was 8,000, and people have been playing with that because they're overusing vibrators and screwing up their cells, right? And you have these women, because they can't achieve proper orgasm. You know, they believe their clitoris is no use and can't achieve proper orgasm. They're putting themselves in a depressive state, not realizing that clitoral, there's different form of orgasms, but because there's only 20% that's actually feeling or penetrative or not, even skin orgasm, only 20% who's actually having pleasure as their birthright. The 80% is like doom and gloom because they think that's the end of it, right? We talked about trauma. We talk about being over sexualized. We not realizing that pleasure is our birthright, because we're always constantly told that we're supposed to be givers, and we do not know how to receive. And when we're receiving, because we're not saying men out there or other women are not given as givers, it's just that we do not know how to stop, relax, and breathe.
You got it.
So in terms of clitoral, persons who are only thinking that they won't have a penetrative orgasm. Let's do penetrative orgasms, right? For those who are listening, or platform that's listening. How can we explain to women how it would be beneficial for them, how to learn to relax so they can have their orgasm? Before I said that, does every woman can achieve orgasm?
I'm saying it, I'm in the camera. If this is going to be podcasted, I'm looking directly at the camera. I want you to understand that unequivocally, absolutely, yes. Access to your orgasm is possible. It is your birthright. Right. It can happen.
Yes.
I can't say that enough. I think one of the things that may help for a woman who is working and trying to, maybe questioning her ability to reach orgasm, is to understand that the way that most of us have been taught sex and taught intimacy has come from a male lens. It is from a male's perspective of what sex should look like.
Girl, I was listening to this pastor/sexual person on TikTok. And I want to answer him so bad, because his thing is, if a man has a pencil penis, a woman cannot have an orgasm. And if a man has a girth with his accent, you have to have the girth. That's the only way. And I wanted to go in, jump in the screen, and punch him.
Right.
And the crazy thing about it is, his audience is huge. Yes, it's true. So that's their way of saying, oh, it's because of the man penis, why, or his member, that's why I can't have this orgasm. We as women own our orgasm.
That's it. I say it again. That say what
Yeah,
you
we
said,
we
Dom.
own our we own our orgasm. So, but then you have, as you said, there are men out there telling women. This is one of the kicker when he is examining a woman, her G spot isn't swollen. Dude, it won't be swollen because you're examining her. She's not turned on.
Well,
How
this
is
is
her
the
G spot
thing,
going to be swollen if she's not turned on? I want, as I said, I had to whoosah myself. I
right?
had a couple of people sending it to me to, I guess, do it. And it's like, is it even worth my time? But you know what? I am going to do it
Yeah,
because honestly, you cannot be going around telling women,
yeah.
you are a man, you do not understand women's body. And as you said, men has been over always constantly talking about women and their orgasm. Because back in the days, remember, if a woman has an orgasm and she has secretion, there's something wrong with her,
Ah, and again,
right?
you're so right. Like again, once again, the understanding of the women of a woman's body, like in the early 1900s, when a woman was orgasm, it was called hysteria. The reason, do you know why we actually have vibrators to this day? There
Mm-hmm.
was a doctor. I actually did a video on this as well. There was a doctor who used to treat women
Using hand, and his
with his
hand got
hand,
tired,
and his hand
right?
got way too tired.
Tired, and that's why he
So
created it.
he invented a machine
Yeah,
that would vibrate and do that work for him
yes, I
because
heard
it
that.
was considered, women needed to kind of, it was a treatment
Mm-hmm.
for their sense of hysteria
Mm-hmm.
or this idea. We have not been afforded this space of our own pleasure. And again, because it comes from a male understanding, and unfortunately we've created this performative example because so much is exposed through pornography. So much is most people get their educations from
From
pornography.
porn. Mm-hmm.
It's not really understood that that's not the way that women experience sexuality. It is not, we do not, you can't just bend us over and stick it in. That is not the way that it works for most women. Women do have a process
Yes.
where the mind, again, I mentioned that word safety. For a woman to truly come into a space which
Space.
is lustful, which is ready, where you're aroused, it starts literally from our minds being
Mm-hmm.
able to release into this idea of our pleasure.
Listen, one of my slogan is play with my mind and you'll get her wet.
Oh, girl, ain't that the truth? Ain't
It
that
is
the
the truth. Oh
oh,
my God, this is so absolute. Oh my God, this is great. Um, I was doing, I'm going to take a little pivot
yeah,
because I honestly feel that we need to do a second part for that because honestly, yeah,
that's a whole
girl,
thing.
it's
You're
it's
right.
it's a whole thing because I want to talk about the womb wellness and
Mhm.
sexuality. I mean,
Mhm.
we touched on clit,
Yes,
and we're talking about a little bit of organs, but I want to pivot it a little bit. Again, I was watching social media, and this is the thing, and so many women so many people who's on social media are the whole concept of just out there and listen to other persons, but rather than doing their own research. There is this
mhm.
gentleman, they were talking about body counts, and he mentioned that if he's dating a woman and if she has more than 5 body count, he will sleep with her but won't have her or girl as a girlfriend or marry her. What's your take on somebody asking a woman what's their body count?
Oh, girl, this is like one of my favorite topics. Okay. One of my favorite topics. Again, when I hear a man start to talk about body counts and a woman who, may have been with too many men, I want to talk about the fact that I do a lot of intimate couple counseling. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm working with couples who they have what we call dead bedrooms. They're not
Mm-hmm.
having sex. The problem with why I believe innately many men don't like a woman with a body count is because they understand that when a woman understands how she deserves to be pleasured and she's had the experience of a lot of different men, chances are you may not measure up. Okay, let's talk
Exactly.
the
Call
ballistics.
it for what it is.
Let's talk the ballistics. You're threatened. Most men are threatened by a woman who is in power of her body and
And her
understands what she
sexuality.
needs.
Yes. That's it. Point
Because
blank.
one of the things that we have to recognize for men is that the most vulnerable place they are is when they are between a woman's legs. When they are in between your legs and going, oh God, Jesus, if you wanted to pick up a knife and put it through their throats, they can't do a thing.
Just their out of body experiences.
There is a reason why some of the best spies, when they really need information, they send in are women.
Yeah.
Because when you have pillow talk or you're in that vulnerable space, men can be threatened. And because, again, the way we socialize our men, we socialize them that to be softer, to be that vulnerable is a weakness, that the way that they stand in power is to be able to lord over. Of course, it would be it's a natural occurrence for them to feel threatened in any form of that weakness. So I would offer that a part of what the challenges is that we're working with is allowing for men to understand that their vulnerability is not a weakness. In fact, it is a powerful space for them to be able to tap in to this essence of ourselves. You know, this idea that there's the masculine and the feminine and that they're separate is ridiculous.
But that's the thing, though. And I think that's what they're leading with. Because from time, it's okay for men to do what they're doing, but women are supposed to be stay in the bedroom and they're, you know what I mean?
Oh,
I've had men talk about, oh, I can tell if a woman had sex before I do because, or this and her that. And the crazy thing is a manipulation of the brain, and women believe them. Oh, you know what I mean? And it's just getting ridiculous out there, Carrie, when it comes into the sexual space. Go on, sweetie.
No, there's so much of what you're saying is the truth. There is a level of ridiculousness around this. And because we also don't understand how the socialization really does play into it, like the idea of virginity is really a myth. And the idea of the hymen breaking and them knowing, about us is, again, the reason why we even have marriage and why we have this claiming of women has been tied into the way that we exist in this capitalist system. The system could not exist without the subjugation of the woman's body, because you needed, when we decided to come into agriculture, most marriages were about business arrangements, right?
It's true. But it was, yes.
It still is.
Yes, it still is, yeah.
Try and get a divorce and tell me it's not like dissolving a corporation. I don't know about you, but I've been through it a couple of times. Tell me it's not about that.
Yeah, it really has. Yeah.
It is. And so when men were claiming land, it was important for them to know who their children were, and they needed a lot of children to work the land. And so at that point, it was imperative to have one woman who was going to produce
all of that
children.
It's so funny you said that. So I was talking to a couple several years ago about the whole polygamy stuff and open marriages and stuff. So I said to him, why not just leave? Because at that point I was just learning about about it, right? And he says the reason why he is not going to leave his wife is because it's about property.
Oh,
yes, he said it. He says, and she understands too. He says, I trust her. She has my children. We have a house together. We have children together. So God forbid anything happens to me, she is the person who is going to be responsible for our generational wealth and our generation well-being. And it's okay for them to do what they need to do, but he's gonna continuously, and I mean, actually they're big now on TV, you know, but this is before what is their freaking name? Their name is just beside me right now. Hmm?
We'll put it in. There's several couples that have
Yeah,
been moving through this space.
but it's
And it's
just crazy.
interesting to me.
Yeah, it's
So
just as if we're going right back to when you said how marriage started, because it's property. That's why they needed that person. It all started as a transaction.
it did. And I would offer to you, you know, I love these conversations because again, yes, I completely agree with we really need to understand, I should say, where
Mm-hmm.
the origins of this are, because
Mm-hmm.
we also then need to be thinking about, are we really all supposed to be monogamous? And
Mm-hmm.
what I find so interesting about polygamy is, once again, polygamy is normally based upon a patriarchal system, which is what
Mm-hmm.
we're also discussing. This capitalist and colonial understanding that made a woman commodified into one space.
Yeah.
It's based upon this capitalist way of being. However, monogamy was not necessarily an outcome of how we were before we did this.
Mm-hmm.
Several people are not meant to be monogamous, but because of the way the system works, we have fallen under that. And polygamy in particular, I always kind of raise an eyebrow to, because polygamy in its own sense is based off of a patriarchal understanding for men. It really benefits men, that folk. What about if we talk about polyamory
Mm-hmm.
and ethical non-monogamy?
Okay, you
Where
know what? Stick a pin. Stick a pin. For those who don't understand the difference between all those different polyamory, polygamy, just do a quick lesson
breakdown.
on what, yeah, break like a quick one.
Okay.
What's the difference?
Okay, so let's break that down.
Mm-hmm.
So polygamy is normally centralized, where you have like a grouping of women. It's
Mm-hmm.
normally a grouping of women. So a man, the male figure will have more than one wife, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's why we say poly. And
Mm-hmm.
the gamy is normally about the female. So they'll have multiple wives.
Okay, so if he has multiple wives, can
Mhm.
those wives go out and play?
Not normally.
Not normally. So it's just him and all his wives.
A polygamy is like an offshoot. Yes, it's
Yes. Okay.
yeah. So polygamy, normally there's rigid structure that is hierarchical. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
not saying, like, some polygamists, there are some cultures that are matriarchal, where there's a culture in, oh, where is it? It's somewhere in Indonesia, somewhere out in that realm of the world. It's an Asian culture where a woman is actually allowed to have more than one husband. And so that society can exist. And that's a polygamous understanding. It's normally in that way.
And they can make their own rules. They make their own rules,
Yes,
basically. Okay.
they are, it's more hierarchical. So what I mean
Okay.
by that is, somebody leads, whether you're the woman or the man, and it's majority, it's the males,
Mm-hmm.
and then they have their bevy, their harem, their side of things,
Mm-hmm.
have
Mm-hmm.
multiple wives, and it's normally very structured in that, in some very established dynamics of what masculine and feminine are supposed to look like. Think of what's that show that's on TV right now, where the wives are now like turning on him like crazy? I can't remember. It's a TLC show.
Okay.
But
Okay.
anyways, that's a polygamous relationship. Think Utah, any of those places. Polyamory is, oh, sorry, let me back up.
Mm-hmm.
Ethical non-monogamy
Mm-hmm.
is just what it's saying. So meaning that a person, whoever you are, can be and have multiple love partners. You are having partnerships, having relationships with more than one person ethically, which normally means that everybody knows that this is how we interact. So I always
Is it the same as open relationship?
similar to open relationship falls underneath it.
Okay.
So having an open relationship would be one way to which you can practice ethical non-monogamy. So for a married couple who decide to open up your relationship, and both partners, you know, set up a criteria to how they want that to look, then you know, you guys can have fun and play in that. Some people have what we call polycules, which is that
one is new. I've never heard about that one.
A
polycule.
A polycule, which is, you know, you have your whole kind of network, right? Say you have a lover, and he's male, and then say you have a female lover on the other side, and sometimes that's like your circle. And sometimes you may have a couple that you play with in that circle, and sometimes either in your polycule they don't know about each other, but they know that they exist, and sometimes everybody may play together and then they exist. There are other ways of being where you have swinging.
I was just about to say it sounds similar to swinging too.
Well, those are different. That's a little different, meaning like sometimes you can have like, and they could all be in love relationships. Like normally when you're polyamorous is along those lines, when you're going to have a polycule. And what that means is you may be in these very loving, intimate relationships. And again, you may have your girlfriend on one side, you may have a boyfriend on one side, and they don't play at all. They only play with you.
Okay.
Right? Or sometimes
would that
everybody play together.
Would that be like, oh my God, what's that oh my God, a train of thought. That horse with the thing that comes over your head. Well, what is that called?
So that's a whole other, and so then
that's what is it called again?
So a unicorn.
A unicorn. So that's different too.
That is a whole other piece of things too.
All right, quick, let's go on quick for the other ones.
A unicorn, like this too, would be its own topic as well. But there are so sometimes normally the unicorn experience as well really does need a little bit more conversation. So when we're talking about an ethical non-monogamous relationship, or when a couple decides, let's say, to open up their marriage, a lot of the time when they open up their marriage, they are looking for somebody to bring into their relationship. And that person is called the unicorn. Right? They join the marriage.
I remember a couple of years ago, this guy reached out to me. I thought it was really nice. And, you know, talking all the time, you know, you're doing a great job. And out of the blue, I was talking to my wife, and we would like you to be a unicorn. And I said, a unicorn? In my head, I knew it was something sexual, but I wasn't sure. So I said, no, thank you. I must think about it. And then I blocked him. Like, what?
Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. Normally when you have a couple start, very few couples, so if you are opening up and you want to practice ethical non-monogamy, it is going to stretch your relationships. And so when a couple decides that they want to bring in a unicorn, right? They want to bring in this third. Right away, you're setting up a distinct power dynamic. There's a power dynamic. When a couple is opening up and then brings in another person, you immediately, have you ever had a best friend? Did you ever have have two best friends, and you were the one that kind of kept the best friends together? You know what I mean? Sometimes you would run into conflicts with that, because again, these two are already decided that this one is an addition. So you already yourself have commodified. You've already commodified that third coming in. And so even if you think, no worries, even if you think that you are creating this special sexy time, you've already absolutely, like, it feels a little icky. You're actually not respecting or honoring most of the time the position of that third person coming in.
Oh my God. You know what? We could have another episode talking about the different things, because all of a sudden another one came up to mind. And it's like, okay, I'm not even going to ask you about that, because that's supposed to be another program in here. That's information overload. And this is the thing, like, our society just assume they may know about vanilla couple. Even if I said to vanilla couple, people might not even understand what I mean by vanilla couple.
Yeah.
Vanilla couple is just the same couple who does same thing over and over and over again, right? And then you have the swingers lifestyle, you have the poly, the this, the that, the cuckold couples, and it's like
Oh,
there's so much things that need to be talked about that people have no idea. Listen, Carrie, I start being exposed
yes.
to the different genre or the different sexuality and the
Yeah.
different plays when I was 45 after divorce.
R-
Carrie, I just thought husband and wife, get up,
Right.
kiss, sex. Get up, kiss. That's it. Didn't
Right.
know about the different kind of was it earlier we talked about porn.
Yeah.
So porn initially was my teacher,
Oh, yes.
right? Like everybody else's.
Like
And
everybody else.
then, right? And then when I realized when all these girls are having orgasm, it could be yogurt that they're using, inject water in the vagina to be squirt. Like I did not realize it was a movie we were watching. And then as a woman, I'm feeling so less, and I'm thinking, oh my God, that's not happening to me.
Yes.
What's wrong with me? There must be so, because look at them, you know? And then after divorce, and I start doing the toys, and I'm thinking, hold on there, hold on. I start doing my homework and realize, oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have, let's say, anal. I would have couples calling and talking to, and they want the anal spray. And when I start teaching, I said, listen, you're gonna hurt yourself. Don't like. It's like the blinders off my eyes was removed to the whole sexuality realm of things. And because we take sexuality to the physical part
Mm-hmm.
of it, and then realizing, oh my God, that's why so many people have no idea about, people always think intimacy was a part of sex as well. Didn't
Ah,
realize it's two different spectrum,
separate things.
you
And
know?
I would offer that when you release
Mm,
power of your sexuality and this pleasure, you're tapping into something. And
girl.
what my travels as a coach over the last 8 years now has taught me is that I believe that they don't really want you to know how powerful you are in that space when you truly start to hit certain levels of
They
your
have
sexuality.
no idea, Carrie. I was watching a program when this girl was saying to me, whenever she wanted to manifest stuff,
Yeah,
she would
sexual.
just get, yes, she would just get into her body,
Yeah,
like in her energy, get like her physical doesn't even exist.
yes.
And when she get into the core of her sexuality and have orgasm after orgasm, and when she start doing her manifestation and she start doing what she does, it's like boom. If we can teach women how to be in tuned
Mm-hmm.
with their inner being and the kind of energy that they have, we don't even have to have penetrative, because I think
No,
a lot of people correlate penetrative sex to have orgasm. But
absolutely.
every part of our body, every molecule, every inch of our body, every breath that we take is an
Absolutely.
orgasm, can be an orgasm.
Can be orgasmic. And I think that oh, I love that so much. The way you said it too is oh so sexy, by the way, Queen. It's oh so sexy. Um, I love this because you are exactly right. Where
Mhm.
I normally begin in my courses and in my process, especially when I'm working with women, and especially women who haven't had that experience of orgasm, what I normally work with them on is actually developing a self-pleasure program. Because to be honest with yourself, how can you expect to receive pleasure from somebody else if you don't know how to bring it to your own body? And so
Absolutely.
that's where we begin, is
Yeah.
learning what are your erogenous zones. Like for instance, on my body, I have a zone, right? Just a little bit on my shoulder.
Girl, are you listening, people? Who's just
Right,
listening?
right
At her
here.
back, right her neck,
Right
right
here.
her.
I'm putting it out. And if my man or one of my lovers come and touch that spot,
You're blow up.
it's
It's
on.
done. It's
It's on.
over.
It's over. You don't gotta touch a titty. You ain't gotta touch nothing. That right there, boo.
You know what? Mash bricks. I like that part. You talk about the touch of titty. Did you know
Mm.
that stats are saying that majority of women don't even get an orgasm or feel pleasure from their nipples?
Nope.
But because men think it does, they play into that they're, because men think, oh, the nipple, 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 the
Yep, yep.
nips, and not realizing that doesn't even do a lot for women.
Not for women. But do you know what? There's proving statistically that 60% of men actually get,
Enjoy,
right?
but it's
Really
so
proud.
isn't that crazy? It's them that enjoy it, and for women, it's like it's a part of the show. It's a
Uh,
part of the show. Oh my
and
God, this is
perform.
just, and the performance is the performance. Oh my God, this is
100%.
just so amazing. Harry, please on please. Like I haven't even 20 different questions to ask you. And I'm gonna tell you, I don't even touch them.
Well, I'd be happy to come back because
Yeah,
again,
oh no, you're coming back. What are you talking about? You're happy to come back. You have no choice, mama. It's done. It's done. It's absolutely done. And it's so funny. Like when I decided to do this, I said to myself, I'm gonna do 30 minutes. Because but 30 minutes is not good enough.
no,
Because then when you're talking about subjects like this, I just wanted to let's go with the flow of things.
yes,
You know what I mean? And that's why I said, let's just do this and go with the flow of things because we have so much to say. And one of the things I love about sexuality is, and Carrie, I think we cannot have. We're so aligned in the space about sexuality. It's my own journey of not understanding who I was and the things that I've been missing until I was in my mid 40s, right? And I know you mentioned that we have to start a place by teaching women their erogenous zone and so forth. And in my practice, I literally go in and clean up the guck.
yes.
Then we start.
Love
Because
that.
honestly, I do believe that we are walking around with so much trauma through life that we just don't understand how important we is. As women, we have the power of looking. You said it, even when you're making love to a man,
Yeah.
you can tell him or say anything to him because he's so lost. We have the power to turn things around, but because we don't believe that, it's not happening.
Well, this is it, right?
It's not happening. And so you need persons like myself and you
Yeah.
who are co-creating in this universe
Hey,
to teach
and to light that
and
fire.
to light that fire because pleasure is our birthright. And until
Absolutely.
you start believing it, it's not going to happen. It is our birthright.
It
It's
absolutely is.
absolutely is. Carrie, before we go, please just share with our audience what is your social media handle and how they can get in touch with you.
You can reach me on Instagram. It is carriesutra.com. Oh, sorry, at Carrie Sutra. My website is carriesutra.com, but the best place to get me is at Carrie Sutra TV on YouTube. On YouTube, I give all kinds of handy little tips and tricks on how you can improve. And really, where I'm moving to is talking about what are the historical ways to which our sexuality has been affected and how we are starting to turn that on its head now. What
Awesome.
does it mean now?
Awesome. I will definitely be putting it on all social media platform. I'm going to be including all of Carrie's handle. But this episode was mind opening and I really want persons to take a pen out and paper out and make some notes because we have talked about the clit. We have talked about penetration. We're talking about pleasure is our birthright. With it is. We are here to break the chain and to live our individual life, to be present, be awakened in everything that we do, every breath that we take. Please follow us on Talk with Savage Desires. Share, share, and share. Carrie, thank you so much again to be a guest on Talk with Savage Desires. Until we see each other again.
You know it.
Oh, girl.
Forward to it, my dearest. Oh.